Hi, everyone, and welcome to How Round Is Your Rupti, a podcast that delves into topics and issues specifically through the lens of South Asian women. Today, I have with me Harri Dhokia, who is the founder of Unleash the Wolf Within, a soulful community helping women reconnect with themselves through healing, spirituality, and personal growth. She's also a business mentor supporting soul led women in building aligned businesses and lives with purpose. Now, Harri is UK born with East African Gujarati roots and is now married to a Hindu Punjabi Brahmin family with roots in Punjab, India, similar to myself. We are having this conversation today as Harri's been on her own journey of understanding identity, blending cultures, and navigating being a modern day hybrid. She's passionate about unpacking cultural conditioning, spirituality, tradition, and self discovery within South Asian culture. So, hi, Harri. Thank you for coming on today.
Hi, Priya. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So, there's a lot of interesting things I just mentioned there in the introduction. Um, and if we want, we can start off with that marriage. Obviously, you've got a different background to your husband at the moment. So, and I think that it's more and more common nowadays to have different cultures marry, less so probably in parents' time, grandparents' time, it would have been frowned upon, but now it is much more common. So could you tell us a little bit about your marriage and how that came about and what it was like blending into a family that is different from how you grew up?
So I got married in 2020, so just before the pandemic, and I'm still blending.
Yeah.
We're still figuring things out, and I think it is a lifelong journey as we both evolve together and individually as well. But had these challenges. Obviously, it didn't help with us being struck with a big thing called the pandemic in the first year of our marriage. So that had its own challenges. And I mean, we just laugh about it now that if it didn't break us, then it's lifetime now. So, um, but I had just right from the beginning of our marriage, we had challenges. My mother-in-law passed away about 3 weeks before we got married. So our wedding was very bittersweet. It's probably the best way to say it. It was very emotional, but it was like the long awaited wedding. And in hindsight, we never knew that it would be the last wedding for a really long time in the family. It was the last time we were going to see family members. Because as soon as we got back from honeymoon, in a matter of weeks, we were in lockdown. And the challenges all came up at once. It was me moving into a new area. So just for a little bit of background, I grew up in Northwest London. I currently live in Essex. His family home was in East London, so I first moved to East London. So navigating that, everyone knows there's a big difference between East London and Northwest London, and it really is, it was a big change. So living in an area that I've never lived in before, in a home I've never lived in before, with a man I've never lived with before, and in a family home I've never lived in, and they were grieving as well, which is obviously natural. And all of a sudden, there's a new woman in the house. We speak different languages. Obviously, we've got the common English language, but there is, I'm Gujarati, he's Punjabi. So there was a lot of challenges. And I look back now and it's like, how on earth did I get through that? But we did. And here we are, we're still married, which is a good thing.
I can't imagine in the pandemic as well, where you were restricted probably from seeing your own family, from seeing friends and having, that familiarity there and just being with your husband and his new family.
It was tough. It was tough because it's like, not saying it in a nasty or a bad way, but it felt like you're in prison. Like all of a sudden, it's like my freedom's gone. And I get that everyone felt that during that time. It's like we can't go out and you can only go out 2 hours in the day, or you can only meet with your bubble. But here I am, like I couldn't even go and see my parents. I'm in a home that's not really my home. And I felt that hard. That was really hard. I was waking up in a bed that wasn't mine, next to a man who, I'm newly married to. And it was tough. It was tough. And there was a lot of soul searching, which is probably the best way to say it. That I was doing a lot of soul searching at that time. And right in the beginning, my father-in-law, he ended up getting locked down in Leicester. So for the first couple of weeks, it was just me and my husband. His office shut down, so he was at home. I was trying to sort my businesses out on home and just trying to find something that blends in with us, finding our routine, going out for that little walk together, having breakfast together, figuring out what he wants to eat, figuring out what I like. Him working out that how messy I am, me figuring out his OCD. It's like we got
Yeah,
to know each other,
yeah,
which was nice, but yeah, it had its challenging times.
yeah. It's like, I suppose lots of South Asian women are quite similar to me. I moved to London. I moved in with my husband and his family were nearby. We were with them every day. So lots of South Asian women, I think, go through that, but you've got that added complexity as well, that I didn't have having different culture. So how have you managed to blend your Gujarati culture and his Punjabi culture?
It's just trying to see what works for both of us. We had the challenging times when it came to the religious stuff. And I say stuff because it got to the point that I was like, look, as long as we're happy and as long as we're navigating and respecting each other's backgrounds, that's what it was. It was respecting the backgrounds that we've been brought up with. It became a point where it wasn't just about the religion, it was the upbringing that we've had and our belief system. And I think that we had to really navigate because even though we say we're both Hindu, but actually no, we're really, really different. And we've just got to be honest with each other and respect each other. It's not about just because you believe in something, because I'm now married to you, that I have to automatically believe that. I had to put a stance on a lot of stuff that actually, just because you believe in that, I respect you for believing in that, but don't make me believe it too, because I've not been brought up like that. And you can't just automatically expect a woman to just switch overnight just because she's married into a different family. We're human at the end of the day. And I think I did a lot of soul searching on who I am and my authenticity of being Harry. Yes, I am Hindu. Yes, I am British Asian born. Um, I am Gujarati. So I was trying to all of a sudden figure out what it is that I like and what I believe in. And for a very long time, I was on like a spiritual path. So, I believe in angels. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm not going to go and say to my husband, because I've married you, now you've got to believe in angels. It's, you know, I will do my own rituals and he does his own rituals. And yeah, sometimes we have a little bit of a banter, is like, but it's banter at the end of the day. And and then obviously the language thing. So it's trying to communicate with my father-in-law. I mean, he speaks English anyway, but naturally you just speak in your home language. And sometimes I have to stop and say, can you just translate to English? Because I really don't understand. Or if I'm being not wanting to just disrespect or anything, I sometimes say to Sati that, can you just translate, like, what did he say? And I can pick up a few things and I'm learning more and more, but sometimes it's still there that I just don't get it. Punjabi is a very fast,
It can be.
fast language and quite aggressive as well. The tone,
There is a harshness in the tone, I'll give you that. Uh,
it's
I
like you're having an argument, but you're not.
Yeah, definitely. I loved what you said about you were going on your own journey, your spiritual journey. You're being your authentic self, showing up in your marriage, and you knew the things that you wanted to keep to yourself. I think it's really commendable that you were able to do that when you got married. 'Cause I think thinking back to myself, and I was 28 when I got married, and there was almost an expectation that you left whatever you were brought up with was left behind, and that when you got married, you just did everything your in-laws did. And it almost feels like an erasure of identity. And I felt like I went through that process like, oh, I'm giving up. I will just do the new traditions that I'm told. This is the way they do things. And I went from a Hindu Punjabi family to a Hindu Punjabi family. But as we know, there can be great differences within a family as well. So some things were familiar, some things were very different. And I know, I think at my stage, there didn't feel like much choice. So I think it's quite admirable that at your stage you were able to have those conversations and put things in place. What are the things that you stuck with for yourself that maybe, as advice to other young ladies who might be getting married, who are making that change? How did you go through that process? Or what things did you say, like, this is me, this is what I need to hold on to?
It's a cross between not being disrespectful, but being true to yourself. So there is a cross line. Like, I don't want to become someone who is showing disrespect because that's not who I am. But it can come across like that. That if I'm not doing something because it's not that I don't believe in it or I don't understand it, I will ask the questions. Um, Especially like when it comes to their religious beliefs, as an example. Like one of the prime things is, as Gujarati, we have our main Navratri, which is towards the end of the year. I've grown up playing Garba. I organize our community Garba events. So I've grown up where I do want to play Garba. I do want to get dressed up. I do want to play Dandiya and, worship the Matajis that we have across the 9 days. Whereas they also celebrate the Navratri, which is during springtime. And it's very much, it's you can't eat meat, you can't drink, you can't do this, you can't do that. Whereas growing up, it was never drilled into us. If I accidentally had a chicken sandwich at school during Navratri, it's not something that I'll go home and think, oh crap, mum's going to punish me. It wasn't like that. It was, okay, it's 9 days. It's not about disrespecting, just respect the value that mum's going to be fasting. We don't eat meat in the house. We don't drink. But if I accidentally eat a chicken sandwich, I'm not going to get killed, So I grew up with that belief that there was no fear embedded into me that, something bad's going to happen if you eat a chicken sandwich or something like that. Whereas here, it's a little bit different where it's like you can't go out and about because you can't eat meat or you can't drink. And I think it's a very Punjabi thing that I've kind of learned. And so there was a lot of things that I realized that I've got to be true to my authentic self. My mom's very religious, so I've grown up in a very religious household. I have to sometimes ask my mom what days she's not fasting. So she'll be fasting everything, whether it's long months or, days in the week that are to do with planets or certain deities. And she'll spend like an hour every day doing her puja. And for a long period of time, she'll like, you have to fast this day because then you'll get a good husband, fast this day and this will happen. And you've got to fast this day and be a vegetarian. And so I started questioning everything. And obviously from parents' generation, you don't always get the answers because it's like what you were saying. They just had to do it. They didn't, either they feared asking the questions or they just followed. They blended in and they just cracked on with it. But someone like my mum, she got married at 16. So she was still very young. So she molded into the new family easily. And she had it hard. From Kenya, she moved to Tanzania. Then from Tanzania, she moved to the UK. So I get that she's had her own challenges. And the way she is because of that journey that she's had. But through my own challenges in life where, I had to go backwards in finding out my own identity, I've realized that who I am is who I am. And I am evolving still. I will continue to heal and evolve until the day I descend to, somewhere else, wherever my soul is meant to go. And for that reason, I'm embracing the journey. But if someone is forcing me to do something, whether it's my mum, where, for the best part of 40 plus years, my mum's been putting her beliefs in the most natural way possible. I'm not saying it's forceful, but then you get married and then those beliefs are put onto a woman. And, it's like, when does it stop? So I think from a very early stage of my life, I realized that when do I create my own rules? Rather than living rules that dead people have given because it worked for them at that particular time of their life. No disrespect to my ancestors. I'm grateful for my ancestors because I am here today because of my ancestors. But a lot of their own beliefs and rules got put in place because of their culture, climate, the country they were living in, society at that time. And a lot of it doesn't make sense in the Western world, in this lifetime, in this decade as such. But they have ended up being through Chinese whispers based on fear that, if you don't do this, something bad's going to happen. And then all of a sudden we're fearing God. And that's not the way I want to live. And I've had to figure that out myself. So I don't think stubborn's the right word. I won't say stubborn. I don't think, but I'm quite strong in my belief that I'm happy to learn something and make my own mind up, but don't enforce something, whether it's coming from my mum, my dad, my sister, my brothers, my new family here. I can't say new anymore. It's been like 6 years, but you know what I mean? It's like, I've got to put a stance to actually, if I don't believe in it and I'm not fearing God, why am I doing it? So I will question it before making a decision if it's, I want to do it without disrespecting. I think that's the main thing, is not disrespecting.
Yeah, of course, because when you come into a new family, you want there to be a good atmosphere. You do respect, everything that your in-laws have done for you, done for your husband, like for the situation that you're in now. So I think everything is done respectfully. It makes the situation better. And I think also what you said about knowing yourself really well, do you think that's come with age? We said, our parents' generation, they were very young, they had to go into it. I believe, like for myself, when I got married, I think maybe perhaps I was that naive girl. It was just, oh, get married, happily ever after, there you are, and didn't understand the implications of it until later. And it's taken me much longer through my journey to be really comfortable with who I am, with what my values are, even when they differ from my in-laws. And I have found ways like you to respectfully decline from some traditions that I no longer believe in. There's a lot of sexism in Punjabi families. We see it a lot. It comes up in a lot of traditions that we do. A lot of ceremonies that are there are all catered towards boys. And as I've grown stronger in myself, I've been able to remove myself or just say, I'm not participating. Respectfully, that's not for me anymore. Like you said, the world has changed. Women's rights have changed, and how we think about ourselves and also how we raise our children is different as well. I've got two girls. I'm raising them differently to even how my mum did, for me and my sisters. And that's natural. I think that's a natural evolution of things that happen. But for me, it's come with age. I think that I feel stronger in myself and able to do that. Um, I know from chatting to you previously, you also kept your name from before marriage. How did that go down for
Yeah,
any?
no choice. No, I think it was more, I felt like, so a little bit of background is I was married before. So I got married when I was 26. So similar age as when you got married. And I completely understand where you're coming from, that you kind of just do what you have grown up to do, to get married, go and have kids and be pleasing to your in-laws and to your husband. And, I did everything by the book. Um, don't have any children, but I did everything by the book. And that ended in a divorce. And I took a step back. I went back to my mum and dad's house. And that's where I had to do the whole journey of finding myself. And I had to revert back to my maiden name at that time, because I did take on my ex-husband's name. So I reverted back to my maiden name. And then I focused my whole energy in my career. And time passed forward and I set up my own businesses. And I was just known in the industry as Harri Dhokia. And it just stuck. And I was like, why am I going to now go and change my name, my identity that I've worked so hard to build, not just for public, but for me? It was a journey that I had to find my identity, that yes, I'm a divorcee, and yes, I felt like I really had let my parents down and let my family down, even though that I went through a lot that grew me as a person. It broke me, but it also, moving forward, it grew me as a person, that I had to figure out what self-love meant to me, for me, go on this natural journey of spirituality and self-development, personal development. I organically just went on this journey without realizing I was doing it. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, that really was the big stepping stone that took me on this journey. So because my name just stuck and everywhere I look is just the name, I realized that if I was to go down the route of marrying again, that's one thing that I just didn't want to change. And this is my identity. Yeah, that's fine. If a family member sends a wedding invite and it says Harry with my married surname in it, that's fine. It's a laughing joke in my family now between me and Sati. And we do have a running joke, but I'm so grateful that he respected my understanding as to why I didn't want to change my name, my identity, and just because of a legal document saying I do what I do. So I am very like strong-minded with that it's taken me a while to grow and heal from what's happened in the past, that no one can come and just take my name away again. Um, so yeah, that was a big strong point for me that I didn't want anyone to take, because we don't know what tomorrow holds. You know, especially because I got scarred with the whole divorce in the first place. I don't know where I to be honest, I had lost the value of marriage in the first place. I just lost it all. But through healing and, you know, growing, I'm grateful that I ended up finding my current husband, and we got married. I never thought I would get married again, if I'm honest. So I just grew my identity for me and my journey that worked for me at that time. And yeah, so that was my stance on just not changing my surname.
It, it sounds like such an important journey to take for you, that you wouldn't be where you are now without going through what you've been in the past. And I love that you're speaking about spirituality, self-love, the things that you needed at that time that you didn't realize that you were doing, but you were on that path to self-discovery. For someone who feels that they're in a difficult place, and they want to start that journey of healing, because you've had experience with it, where would you ask them to start? What advice would you give if someone was in a bit of a bad place and they wanted that spirit, maybe spiritual, maybe self-love, just something for themselves? What advice would
Comes it comes from two places. What is surround yourself by people who you aspire to be like is one. I threw myself into my career and I was loving that journey. And that somehow it did grow me. It grew me in my career, but it grew me in like the social environment, aspiring to be around other amazing designers out there, getting the awards, so that was one thing, is just putting myself out there. Another thing is doing the inner work. So one of the main things that was the turning point in my life was the book, The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. And I can't remember, I can't pinpoint out who introduced it to me or at what point it came into my life, but it was definitely after my divorce. And I read that book and I read it over and over and over again because it hits you at different points in your life. As you evolve, you pick up on something different. And that was the whole law of attraction, the power of gratitude. That was the big turning point. So if anyone wants to go down the route of changing to heal, to overcome challenge in life, it's such an easy book to read. And it's one book that I highly recommend. The other book that really changed things for me was the book called The Universe Has Your Back by Gabrielle Bernstein. Two amazing books that I will go to time and time and time again because they really helped my journey. Then, and then the other thing is having faith that you are exactly where you are meant to be. And even though you may feel like life is hard and everything's at the end and there's no going back, there's no going forward, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And this is all part of our growth journey. Our soul is here in this human experience because it needs to grow. It may need to balance karmic patterns from past lives. It may be because it needs to do something in this lifetime to move on to the next lifetime. We don't know. But I had to learn the hard way that whatever had happened in the past, what's happening to me now is all part of my soul's journey. My soul knows exactly what it's doing. And I've just got to embrace that feeling that, yes, I'm doing this for my soul and I am exactly where I need to be, and just embrace it. So if I get stuck with something, the first question I ask myself is, what is it teaching me? How can I learn from this? How can I break the pattern to not make the same mistake? So, yeah, just start learning. There's so many YouTube videos out there as well of just amazing positive things. Um, and it's just trying to take yourself out of the challenge and realizing that actually I had to go through that challenge. There is bigger things out there. My soul just needs to do this.
I think it's amazing how you've come through that journey with such positivity, and you sound so happy in yourself and assured in yourself that this is where you're meant to be, and the things that you've been through were meant to happen for you to get to where you are today. And I think it's a lovely way to also give other people confidence that it's not the end of the world when things happen, although it feels like it. I'm sure, a lot of people have struggles in their lives. But to ask that question, what is this teaching me? The growth that comes out of that. And it is a mindset shift. I think to ask yourself questions rather than putting blame out there to other people for your situation or things that happen, to switch it to what can I do is an empowering question as well. And something that everyone can learn from.
It's not easy.
No, no, it's not
No,
easy. No quick fix.
no,
Nothing.
it's not an overnight fix. No one said life was going to be easy. And life isn't life unless it has its ups and downs. But the big thing to do, and I had to figure it out the hard way. When I was right in the thick of it, I didn't see a way out. I just thought, what the hell's happening to me? Why is it happening to me? So I was in a very victim mode mindset and I had to find my way out. But if one person can just change 1%, just one small thing every single day, by the end of the year or by the end of the month, they will have come so far that they can look back and think, how much have I changed? And it's so important for us to focus on us. As women, especially the South Asian women, we focus on everyone else but us. We're the last on the list. If we've even made it on the list, everyone else comes before us. And this is what I do inside UWW, where I'm helping them to focus on themselves, giving the spiritual tools, giving the guidance, giving the positive affirmations, the talks, so that they can just tap into something, whether it's a health talk or something to do with the mindset, something to do with the soul, or reading the right book, so that they stop focusing on everyone else and just do something for themselves. And it's important because we don't do it enough.
100%, I agree with you there. And that is half the work, is just almost encouraging women to think about themselves and their own needs, because we're not brought up to do that. It's everyone else. So to break that cycle and to actually spend a bit of time on yourself, and it makes you feel so much better, and it makes you better able to give back in the areas that you want to as well. But it is a journey to get there as well.
It is a journey, and I think we're getting better slowly. I think as generation and time goes forward, we are getting better, but it's important to fill our cup first, let it overflow, and then serve everyone else from the saucer, not from our cup. And I think that's a hard thing to grasp, but we're learning. We are learning.
Yeah, definitely. And I think places like UWW and the coaching that I do for South Asian women, it just puts that emphasis that yes, our culture is different. Sometimes you can't give women from different cultures the same advice. It doesn't work because we've got different experiences, different belief system and values that have been ingrained in us, that until we bring them out and reflect on them, they can be hard to change. So focusing with the South Asian lens on women, I think, is so important. And we are raised very differently to men as well. I think my husband's completely different from the way I am. My thinking was completely different. And actually, in some respects, I needed to change my thinking to be more like him, because he's very good at thinking about himself and putting himself first. And I needed that. So there are lessons that we can learn from the people around us as well. There's people that you admire. I think from your first point that you made earlier, surround yourself with good people. Surround yourself with that positivity that you need to grow.
100%. And do you know, it's really weird. My mum is my biggest trigger.
Yeah.
Because, like, if I'm on the phone to her and she'll be like, "Oh, what's that doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, he's just doing the hoover around the house." And why are you not doing it? Because traditionally, culturally, it was the woman who did it. The woman was the homemaker whilst the husband worked. And my dad, he worked full time and he had a shop that he ran. And my mom looked after all of us and made sure that we were going to school and making sure there's food on the table. And that's the norm thing that was done back then, like growing up. All the women, all my aunts, everyone, that's what they did. It was not until like the late, I think mid 80s that they started going out for work. It wasn't just my dad working. Then my mum's got a full time job and everything. And I was packed off to an aunt's house so that I could go to school. Um, but it was still my mum coming home from work and being in the kitchen and making sure the house is the cleaning and the washing and, all of it's all done. So now things are changing for the better, so it's just trying to understand that we have come from different times of our lives. And we've got to make sure that, like yourself, you've got two daughters, it is guiding them the right way to hold their identity, hold their upbringing, but respect the potential new family that they do marry into, because they are going to be different. And as we're getting older as well, we're seeing a lot of mixed marriages where cultures are completely different, the backgrounds are different, religions are different, languages are different. So there is a lot of that. And it's the expectation from a wife. There you've got a new bride coming into the house. And what's the expectation? I think the expectations has to change as we're moving on with the modern time.
And it comes down to values. And like you've said, in your experience, having those discussions up front, talking about it and being respectful, I think are the key takeaways that I've taken away from what you've experienced. And it is great to hear your experience, Harry. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. I think your journey, it's quite unique, but it is happening more and more, blended families. And I think I said to you before the conversation, I don't want to say the word adjusting because I think women do too much adjusting. So I like the term blending. Instead, it should be blend on both sides, not just one person. And I think that's a really important thing to highlight to women nowadays. It's not all about adjusting, and it shouldn't be on one person to do it all.
100%. No, it is teamwork. That's the way we've got to see it. It is a partnership. It's not one side that it's all on the woman to just change everything about her, from her name, her identity, everything. It's bad enough we've got to change our title from Miss to Mrs., but
Yeah,
and the man doesn't do anything.
exactly. Oh, we won't go there right now.
It's another podcast.
Yeah. But thank you so much for coming on today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.